Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be continuing our read through of this book called History of the World, Map by Map. Don't know, this is kind of indented here. Makes kind of a nice sound. There we go. Anyway, I've picked out 3 maps for you tonight out of this book to read. And if you've seen videos in this series before, I have not looked at these maps beforehand. I've just looked at the titles and went, okay, that works as a theme, I guess. Tonight's maps really have nothing to do with each other than they are from like 300 to, I'm guessing, like 900 CE in that span of time. We're going to be looking at a map of the Byzantine Empire, of the Umayyad Caliphate, and of the Vikings. So I'm excited to get into it. I don't know what the Vikings means. I assume it's a map of Viking conquests. So we just get to explore this together. There will be mistakes. There will be some weird happenings, but that's part of the beauty of doing all of this without any rehearsal. So let's get into it. Start off up here. Got my pencil. It says Justinian's reconquests 527 to 569. In 533, under Justinian, the Byzantine Empire launched an invasion of North Africa and conquered it from the Vandals. In 535, Justinian sent an army to fight the Ostrogoths in Italy, seeking the reconquest of the old imperial capital, Rome. The war lasted 18 years, and Byzantine victory eventually came at a huge financial cost. Rome, however, was relinquished to the Lombards 2 centuries later. So all of the dark green is going to be Justinian's reconquests. The stars, the Byzantine capital, which is of course Byzantium, which now is Constantinople. And the green swords will be Byzantine victory. So the dark green. Oh, I see though. Kind of, you can see up here. I'm guessing. No, that's a border. Nope. Okay. Well, it said North Africa. Oh, I see. The reconquested area is, these are the regions. I thought it was going to be like paths, but those are other colors. So we have this area of North Africa and this part of Spain and the Italian peninsula and lots of islands. Side note, American English, we say Byzantine, and pretty much every other form of English they say Byzantine or Byzantine. So just keep that in mind. In America we say Byzantine. Number 2, defending against Persia, 610 to 641. Byzantine Emperor Heraclius came to power in the midst of an invasion of the empire by the Sassanid Persians. The Sassanids had already seized control of Egypt and the Levant and attempted a siege of Constantinople. In 627, Heraclius launched a counterattack into the Persian capital, Ctesiphon, and surrounded the city, eventually forcing a peace deal that subdued the Sassanid threat. So now we're looking at pink arrows. The pink arrows are going to be the Persians that were invading. You can see they tried to head over to Constantinople and down here to Egypt and the Levant here, this way. The dotted pink arrows are the counter invasion of Heraclius, so they went this way and up, down here, heading toward Ctesiphon. I think that's it. We'll read all these little boxes after. The Persian capital. Okay. Number 3. Nomadic raids, 600 to 1200. In the 10th century, semi-nomadic peoples such as the Slavs, Avars, and Bulgars invaded the Balkans, the region between the Greek Peloponnese and the Danube River. In 1014, Byzantine Emperor, how come I keep messing up empire and emperor? Byzantine Emperor Basil II destroyed the Bulgarian kingdom and annexed the territory, a feat for which he earned the nickname Bulgar Slayer. However, revolts against Byzantine rule in 1185 led to a loss of the Balkans and undermined the Byzantine Empire. So the nomadic raids are this green color, which this is actually my favorite color. This bright green. I love it. So they're coming in here. The Slavs, the Bulgars, and Avars, and even into here, into the peninsula here, the Italian peninsula. And Byzantine victories are these swords. So we have a victory at Caliphates. Where else? Do you see any more? It's so hard to see this green and blue together. I don't see any others. Oh well. There were other victories, I'm sure, but I guess that was the big one. Fighting the Bulgars, I suppose. Next we have the Islamic invasion from 629 to 1180. Under the leadership of the first caliphs, Arab Muslim armies invaded both Sassanid Persia and the Byzantine Empire. At the Battle of Yarmouk in 636, the Byzantine army suffered a huge loss. In the aftermath, first Syria and Palestine and then Egypt were conquered by Arab armies and fell under the influence of Islam. Under the rule of the Macedonian dynasty, the Byzantine Empire managed to recapture territories lost to Muslim conquests in the 7th century. I'm realizing, like, when your capital city is in, like, the middle of, like, the known world at the time, right between Europe and Asia, you get invaded a lot. Never really thought about it like that. You're just right in the center of everything, so everyone comes this way at you. Interesting, I think. Alright, so all the purples are the Arab invasions. So you can see them coming out of Arabia. This way, and up, into Turkey, and even around this way. Heading toward Constantinople, I suppose. And then, of course, across North Africa here, up this way, and then up there, and up through Gibraltar, and into the Iberian Peninsula. You can't see. Here we go. I'm sorry. I said up here, and then up into the Iberian Peninsula. Our next box is over here anyway. It says... No, it's not. That's not the next box. This is the next box. I can't get it all the way in, but I'm doing my best. Number 5, Byzantine Seljuk Wars. The Seljuk Turks, a group of warriors on horseback from Central Asia, invaded the Byzantine Empire in the 11th century. During the Battle of Manzikert, the Byzantine Emperor Romanus Diogenes was taken prisoner. The Seljuk threat to Constantinople forced Byzantium to send a distress call to Rome, which triggered the First Crusade. How interesting. I always just assumed that, like, the Pope was in, like, a mood and was like, you know what we should do? We should just go attack Jerusalem and get it back. Just like maybe like a shower thought or something. But no, it was because the Seljuks were invading Constantinople and they asked Rome for help. They were like, yeah, we're going to just go and take all that land that the Seljuks took. How interesting. I never really thought about what started the Crusades. So the yellow arrows are going to be the Seljuk Turks invading. You can see they came from way over here, the Seljuks. Entering Anatolia and coming down there to Jerusalem. Byzantine defeat is right here. That's the Battle of Manzikert. We're in Cappadocia. Now we have the last box, which is the Fourth Crusade. We're skipping ahead, I suppose. 1202 to 1204. When the Fourth Crusade hit difficulties raising money, the Venetians offered their financial backing, but as a condition they diverted the Crusaders into a conquest of Constantinople. The Crusaders looted, terrorized, and vandalized the city. In the aftermath, the empire was divided between Venetians and Crusader lords, while a few Greek areas remained independent, notably the Byzantine side of Nicaea. The sacking reduced the empire to a city-state. Oh my goodness, that was basically the end of the empire part of the Byzantine Empire. So the Fourth Crusade, they said, let's go help, and they went here. Down past the Greek islands, up to Constantinople, and they did their thing. Key sieges are these red dots, so here and at Zara as well. Not really the main goal of crusades, I suppose, but that's what happened. Let's see what all these little notes say on the map. And yeah, I'm going to read them out of order. I'm just going to go left to right. So, because I haven't read these, I don't know where to start historically. So let's go. Over here in Toledo, 507 to 711. Toledo is the Visigothic capital until the Arab conquests of the region. Something we're going to talk about. In a couple weeks on my channel, we're going to do Andalusia. We'll talk about the Arab invasion of Spain. We have Carthage up here in 533. The Battle of Ad Decimum. Byzantine victory in Carthage leads to the collapse of the Vandal kingdom. Up here, this was during that Fourth Crusade in 1202. The army of the Fourth Crusade pillages the port of Zara. Over here we have the Cladion battle in 1014. Basil II defeats Bulgars and annexes the Bulgarian kingdom. Over here in 1091, the Byzantine Empire loses most of Anatolia to Seljuk Turk invasion. I see I didn't read this key that's down here. So the light blue is lands lost between 565 and 1025. The dark blue is the lands lost between 1025 and 1360. And the teal color, I assume that's this and that maybe. It's the empire in 1360. Okay. So it's a map of how the Byzantine Empire shrank. How interesting. Where's another box? Over here. 627. I'm not sure what's pointing at Ctesiphon. Okay. It says Byzantine troops march into the Persian capital to counter the Sassanid invasion. And in 636, over here is the Battle of Yarmouk. I guess that's it for that map. Not a lot of little things pointed out, but a lot happening on it regardless. So let's move over to a completely different empire. Oh, we already looked at that map. The Umayyad Caliphate. Is it the Umayyad Caliphate? This says the Abbasids, and that was after the Umayyads. See, that's what happens. See, here's what I saw. If I can slide over enough. So I looked at this map. I saw the rise of the caliphs, and I saw the Umayyads. So I was like, cool, Umayyad Caliphate map. That's neat. They went all over the place. But this is talking about the Abbasids, the Samanids, Fatimids, Almoravids, and the Ghaznavids. It's way after the Umayyads. So, various caliphates. Let's get into it, I suppose. Number 1, the Abbasids, 750 to 1258. The Abbasids came to power after a civil war that engulfed the last of the Umayyads. Al-Mansur, the second Abbasid, established the new city of Baghdad, which was in a circular form. They built it as a circle, which became a cultural and mercantile center. By the 10th century, Abbasid power had declined, and they were reduced to seeking the protection of other groups, such as the Buahids and the Hamdanids, to ensure their survival. I haven't heard these before. Interesting. I guess we'll learn. The last caliph, al-Mustasim, was killed when the Mongols sacked Baghdad in 1258. So the green is the extent of the Abbasid Caliphate in the year 800. So you can see it reaches up North Africa, way down through most of Egypt, the Arabian Peninsula, and then over here into there's Persia, way into Central Asia, Transoxiana. Big empire. Then we have, if I can get it in the shot, oh goodness, I don't think I can. I'm gonna have to, there we go. That's the best I can do. It's at a really weird spot in the book. Okay, I'll try. The Samanids, 819 to 999. The Samanids were former Abbasid governors in eastern Iran who gradually asserted their independence and in 900 captured Bukhara in Khorasan, which became their capital. Their empire prospered economically and culturally, with its artistic production, including fine pottery and the Shahnameh, the Persian national epic, written by the poet Ferdowsi around 977. Pressure on their eastern borders undermined the Samanids, and in 999, the Turkic Karakhanids took Bukhara, bringing their empire to an end. So the orange outline is the extent of the Samanid Empire, which is pretty much just most of Persia and most of this part of Central Asia. Oops, up here. Then we have down here, can I get it in? Yes. The Fatimids from 909 to 1171. The Fatimids were a Shia dynasty named after Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, from whom they claimed descent. They established themselves in Tunisia in 909 and claimed the title of caliph in the following year, placing themselves in competition with the Abbasids for the leadership of the Islamic world. 60 years later, they conquered Egypt and expanded as far as Syria before being driven back by the Seljuks. They were reduced to the status of puppet rulers controlled by a series of military commanders. Wow, what a fate. So the brown lines here is the Fatimid Caliphate. You can see they took all of this area here, northern Africa. They took most of Egypt, all down here, all this part of the Hejaz, and that's it. I thought they spread a little more, I guess not. They got the Sinai, they got all this part of Egypt. They really reached pretty far. Then we have the Almoravids from 1056 to 1147. A confederation of Berber tribes, the Almoravids were at the center of an 11th century religious revival aimed at purifying Islam. They combined religious fervor with conquest, taking Morocco and founding the city of Marrakesh in 1062. Speaking of which, there's just a huge earthquake in Marrakesh. Hope all is improving over there after the tragedy. It was really bad. Asked by the Islamic kingdoms in Spain to help them resist Christian reconquest, the Almoravids crossed into Iberia, where they came to dominate in the south under their leader Yusuf ibn Tashfin. By 1145, however, they were being forced out of Spain and challenged in North Africa by another revivalist movement, the Almohads, who captured Marrakesh in 1147. So the Almoravids were over here in Western Africa. All the red was their area. For here there's Marrakesh, and then southern Spain and Portugal as well. circa 1100 it says. Then we have the Ghaznavids. The Ghaznavids, a dynasty of Turkic origin, established themselves in Ghazni in Khorasan from 977 and gradually expanded until they took over the western portion of the former Samanid Empire by 1005. They then conquered the eastern portion of the Buwahid Empire before a disastrous defeat by the Seljuks at Dandanakan in 1040. Dandanakan, that's cool. Reduced them to a small area of eastern Khorasan where they ruled until 1186. I just realized this is box number 5 and box number 4 is down there, and the Almoravids was box number 6. I promise I can read numbers, just not very well. So the Ghaznavid territory was pink. So that is this region over here. Looks like it goes past this map. All this region here. And there's a battle right there. That's Dandanakan. I like it. So now let's read about the Buwahids, which was 926 to 1055. The Buwahid or Buyid dynasty originated among the Daylamites, a group of recent converts to Islam in northern Iran. They took advantage of the withdrawal of Abbasid troops in 926 to expand and build power in Iran, expanding north and west, taking Baghdad in 945. They made Baghdad their capital and reduced the resident Abbasid caliphs to puppet rulers. By the late 10th century, Buwahid power had faded, and their last ruler was deposed by the Seljuks in 1055. How interesting, I've never heard of this dynasty before. So they originated northern Iran, and all of this yellow here was their area. So there's Baghdad, Manzikert, Samarra, and all here, all of Persia, and up into here. That was in 1028. So let's read all these little things and see what we can get. Let's start over in Cordoba. 756, the Umayyad prince Abd al-Rahman escapes to Spain, where he founds a new emirate, which claims caliphate status in 929. Over here in Egypt, there's Cairo, 868. The former Abbasid governor Ahmed ibn Tulun gains control in Egypt and founds the Tulanid dynasty. And in 969, the Shia Fatimids capture Cairo and establish a new caliphate. A lot happening in Cairo. Is that it? There's some arrows here. Where were the arrows? Further expansion of Islam. So expanding up to the Khazars, over into India. Can you see the Zaydis were down here? We are just talking about them in my video about Sana. Heading over to India and down the Horn of Africa, expanding out into the Sahara, and the I was about to say the Almoravids, but this looks like the Fatimids probably expanding out into that part of the Sahara. How interesting. There's so many little caliphates and dynasties I'd never heard of. I say little, they weren't very little, but very interesting nonetheless. Pretty much out of these, I'd only ever heard of the Abbasids, the Fatimids, the Almoravids, and I'm sure I've heard the Ghaznavids. That's very familiar, but I can't quite place it. Sorry, my phone just overheated. I don't know if my last sentence cut off or not. I'll find out in editing. But with that being said, let's get to the last map of the night about the Vikings. Let's check out these maps. Where do we start? We start over here with the Swedes and Kievan Rus, 750 to 988. Swedish Vikings pushed east, raiding and settling in lands now called Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. Sometimes known as the Varangians. This people's other name, Rus, gave Russia its modern name. The Rus founded the first state in Russia, a confederation of Slavic peoples named Kievan Rus after one of the cities they established, Kiev. So this mint green color is the areas of Viking influence, Varangian. I've never heard that before. So you can see Kievan Rus is here, there's Kiev, and then Volga, Bulgaria, and little pockets around here. Wow. I always just imagined Kievan Rus as being like here. I didn't imagine it would go so far, but I assume it's because, Sweden came this way and took Novgorod and all that. Interesting. Let's read what happened over in the British Isles from 793 to 1103. The first Viking raids on Britain were in the 790s. The early targets were unarmed monasteries, which the Vikings knew would be full of treasure. The raids became larger in scale, and in 865 the arrival of the Danish Great Heathen Army led to the conquest of most of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms of England. So the orange here are the British and Irish settlements of the Vikings. You can see Danelaw there. Up here in Scotland, and the Orkneys and Shetlands and Southern Ireland. Okay, so I've never known, is it Lindisfarne or Lindisfarne? Because Lindisfarne doesn't sound very English, but it's a lot more fun to say, so I hope it's Lindisfarne. I don't think it is, I think it's Lindisfarne. Someone correct me, someone let me know what it is, and don't crush my hopes too much. Number 3, the North Atlantic, from 825 to 1408. The Vikings were explorers, crossing oceans in search of lands to settle. From the north coast of Scotland, it was a short hop to the Faroes, which were settled around 800. Viking ships ranged westward, sighting Iceland in the 830s and settling it in the 870s. There they established a republic with the world's oldest parliament, the Althing, independent until the 1240s. So this kind of salmon color, which is appropriate, being a fish color, is the North Atlantic Viking land. So there's all of Iceland, there's Reykjavik, this part of Greenland, and I'm sure they're going to talk soon about sailing down into Vinland and Markland. Leif Erikson and friends traveling. Oh, that's this box. Let's read about it. Voyages to Vinland, circa 1000 to 1400. Greenland was colonized from Iceland in 986 by Eric the Red, a fugitive fleeing a sentence of outlawry. It was actually murder, but outlawry. It was a marginal land where a few thousand Vikings lived by hunting seals and walruses and raising cattle, but it was the base for exploring North America in search of timber, which was in short supply in Greenland. They named the most distant land they reached Vinland. I feel like I have a couple videos about Vinland and Leif Erikson now, but it's a really fascinating story. Moving on, I'm checking the numbers, make sure I'm right to this box. The Vikings become the Normans, 799 to 1066. We all know what happened in 1066. The first Viking raids in France were in 799 against a monastery on the northwest coast. At first, the strong rule of the Frankish king Charlemagne held the Vikings at bay, but when he died in 814, the raids increased. In 911, a Viking warlord Rollo agreed to stop raids in return for a grant of land in Normandy. The settlers became French-speaking Normans, losing their Viking identity. Normans would go on to conquer England and Sicily. So the Norman settlements is this tangerine orange color. There's Normandy and there's Sicily, which you can see them coming down. They were like, we want Sicily. I don't know. I guess it was, the Arabs had it. And they were like, we could take them. And they did. So next we have the Varangian Guard. I hope we can see the whole box. Yeah. 988 to 1050, the Rus founded small principalities and began to raid further afield, attacking Constantinople. Of course, Constantinople just constantly being attacked, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, several times. In 988, Vladimir, the Prince of Kiev, became a Christian, and relations with Byzantium improved. He even proved a contingent known as the Varangians to become the Byzantine Emperor's bodyguard, employed in recognition of their fighting qualities. By the mid-11th century, the Viking raids in the area had ceased. Yeah, Christianity really had a chokehold on the Vikings. By like the 900s, they were like, wait a second, Jesus wouldn't like this, and they stopped everything. So let's start over in Canada and make our way across Europe. So circa 1000 to 1400, Greenland Vikings make voyages to collect timber from a place they called Finland, somewhere south of Markland. Circa 1000, Lonzo Meadows is an archaeological site showing a Norse settlement evacuated after 20 to 30 years under pressure from Native Americans. In circa 1000, the Viking sagas speak of Markland, probably the Labrador coast of Canada. It appears Helluland in circa 1000. Helluland, site of seal hunts in Greenlandic sagas, may have been Ellesmere Island. Let's go back in time. 875, the Norwegian Vikings take control of the northern British islands and establish the Earldom of Orkney. It is ceded to Scotland in 1468. There's the Orkney Island. British Isles here, 793. Vikings make their first overseas raid on the rich monastery on Lindisfarne Island in the Kingdom of Northumberland. There. 866 to 954, Jorvik or York is capital of the Danelaw, Viking kingdom in northern England. It's crazy how many British places are Viking names. How cool is that? 860 to 902, the Vikings occupy the fortified port they built in Dublin, right there. Down here in what's now France, in 911, Frankish King Charles the Simple grants lands in Normandy to the Vikings. Imagine going down in history as Charles the Simple. Oh, poor Charles. 857, Vikings push into southwest France and ally with Frankish ruler of Aquitaine, Pippin II. And let's see, where do we go next? I guess over to Kievan Rus. In 750, in Novgorod, the first Viking settlement outside Scandinavia, Staraya Ladoga, is founded. Oh, there I see. Staraya Ladoga. Novgorod's right there. Speaking of, 862, Rurik the Viking founds the city of Novgorod, which means new town. And in 988, Grand Prince Vladimir of Kiev converts to Christianity. Over here, in 950, the Viking raids extend down River Volga, eventually reaching Arab-ruled Azerbaijan. Wow. Etil, is that what it's called? I wonder if that's Baku now. I don't know. And here we see that was in 839. This is 907. Viking-Byzantine trade treaty helps Vikings to exchange furs acquired as tribute from the Slavic peoples of the Kievan Rus for gold in the markets of Constantinople. Here it talks about Sicily. In 1053, Norman knights acting as mercenaries supported by the Pope, the Lombards, and the Byzantine Emperor, and the Byzantine Emperor take over Sicily. So it wasn't like the Normans were like, let's snatch it. The Pope, the Lombards, and the Byzantine Emperor all asked them to come take Sicily. And I guess they could have it, I suppose. So, that is it for tonight. I hope this wasn't too chaotic. It always tends to be just a little bit chaotic. Anyway. I hope you you enjoyed these maps. If you do, please consider subscribing, as I tend to do these videos about once a month or so, depending on my schedule of videos. I post Monday through Friday, so I have a busy schedule. And I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. Let me know what cool fact you learned down below. I think I would have to do something about the Caliphates, how there are so many others I'd never heard of. Really, really cool. And I hope that you have a good night. 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 And cut. Sweet.